lot that's going on, like the entire... oh, geez, I started talking too soon.
You did. Hey, everybody, it's episode 43 of Radio,
43?
Of Radio Free Ortona.
The last one was 42.
Last one was 42.
The answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Here's the question.
Okay.
Because it's us, do we celebrate episode 49 or do we celebrate episode 50?
49. 49.
At any rate, my hope is that we get to episode 50 before Easter. This is my goal, my dream, my aspiration.
50's for chumps. 49 is where it's at.
Easter, eh?
All right.
All right.
So today, we're winging it. No real topics, but a lot has happened.
Yeah.
Trent has been to the third world.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is now president, or well, not yet, but
President-elect, and decisively.
Yeah.
That surprised me.
In the popular vote and decisively in the Electoral College.
I was looking at CNN's coverage there, just see what they said, and they had a little map. And this is before it was, like in the first day after when it wasn't quite nailed down yet. But I was looking at like each state, how it decided where it had gone. And I noticed that the states that had gone for Harris, it was like 53-47 kind of type margins, like pretty close.
Yeah.
But then the states that had gone for Trump, it was like 65-35.
Yeah.
And I thought, holy jeez, that's like none of the West Coast, none of those results were in yet, so I couldn't check. However, I did notice that Washington, D.C. went 92.3% for Harris.
Yeah.
I thought, what does that tell you? 92.3. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
There are some unhappy people in D.C. this week, man.
And Virginia, I think, went for Harris as well.
By like a heavy margin? Or,
Yeah. Because that's most of the people.
Oh, right. People in D.C. or work in D.C. live in Virginia.
Live in Virginia. Some in Maryland, but most live in Virginia.
Right. Yeah. But I was struck by that, yeah. I didn't expect him to get that kind of margin at all. I was expecting another 51-49.
Well, and then all the major battleground states actually went for him was surprising to me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Like the swing states.
Yeah.
Like Georgia,
the ones
Pennsylvania.
the ones that were actually really in play. Like,
right.
Because when I first watched, I was no statute of limitations on this, but like I had the live stream, the Free Press's live stream going on my phone, and I have a nice convenient spot on my dashboard. I just sit my phone while I was driving home from Estevan.
Right.
And it was and the map. So the first map that came out, like, well, okay. Like the West Coast wasn't done, but, there's this big red belt from the Midwest that goes down into Florida, right? Texas. I'm like, okay, there's no surprises there.
I guess, yeah.
And so, but yeah, like Pennsylvania hadn't been called, and North Carolina hadn't been called yet, and Georgia hadn't been called yet. And those were, and then what they normally call the Blue Wall, which was Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and then Illinois, Indiana. But Indiana usually goes red. But yeah, like
a lot of that went Trump too.
I think Wisconsin went Trump. Like Minnesota's pretty reliably Democrat.
Yeah.
Illinois went Democrat. That was called pretty early. But
it's because it's got Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Quite the change. And then Trudeau has fought off probably what is the most, like while you were gone, probably the most serious challenge. To his power that he's faced yet.
Yeah.
Do tell.
Well, he was out of the country.
He was out of the country when I was leaving for South America.
He was on some was it South Asia Pacific area?
Yeah,
I think it was APEC conference or something.
Yeah. That's right, APEC. Yeah, so he was away at APEC, and then
there was a petition going around.
Yeah, there was a meeting.
Gone.
Yeah, and it was reported. I read on the news that there were meetings, that there were closed door meetings between MPs where even the caterers and pages were asked to leave the room.
Yeah,
and this really flagged the media that something's going on.
Yeah,
and so then after that, there was a petition. Where I guess part of the problem was in the past that behind closed doors, people will say, yeah, we got to get rid of Trudeau. But then when Trudeau's standing there in front of them,
they won't.
They back away.
Yeah.
So the ringleaders were saying, okay, we want your names on paper. Like, no weaseling out of this.
Yeah.
Like,
that much I remember.
Yeah.
So that was in play before I
yeah.
left.
So I guess they had 20 names on this petition, I guess.
That's all they managed to get, huh?
I remember the number 20. I don't know if more came on.
Right.
And then there were others, like there was one I'd never heard of him, but apparently he's, the media reported him as a respected figure, but again, it's media. A fellow in Nova Scotia who has already long announced he's not running for re-election. So he's got a bit of a shooting license.
Yeah.
And he said, I didn't put my name on the petition, but yeah, he's got to go. And he kind of emerged as a bit of a spokesman.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the ironic thing is they had, I think it was the Commonwealth. Yeah, it was a meeting of Commonwealth nations. And one of the news networks showed billboards in this country. It was a small island nation. And it was a real big thing for them to host this meeting of these Commonwealth nations. And they were showing the billboards that they had where it had the woman who was the kind of like the president of their country, and then beside these major Commonwealth leaders. And they showed one where she's there, and there's another picture of King Charles. And then there's a picture of her, and then a picture of Trudeau, smiling behind a Canadian or in front of a Canadian flag and all that. I said, yeah, and Trudeau's not even coming now. Like he canceled because he had to put out fires back in Ottawa. So then, he comes down and puts down the rebellion and this sort of thing.
But I mean, that right there is an embarrassment. Now,
yeah, it kind of is.
So I have to say, I so loved my time in Paraguay
because of the political stability compared to.
I paid attention to nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Canadian or American.
Yeah.
On the 5th, we were actually driving down from Philadelphia to Asuncion, and that was a 5-hour drive. And so I wasn't paying much attention.
Right.
And it was
you were white knuckling it.
I got up on the 6th. I briefly checked, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" And then and I haven't looked at my Google News since.
Shut her
it was
down.
Like I do not have the bandwidth to deal with this here, right? And I still don't. Basically, I'm just in shrug it off despondently mode and go, okay, America
is what it is.
And America's fucked, right? I mean, it's a sick society. There's no reason. It shouldn't even have been close for Trump, let alone him winning, right?
If the Democrats, we'll address that later.
Yeah. So just for me, I'm kind of wondering if it's the same thing that's happening up here, whether this is the reaction of the moderates to the shrillness of the woke, right? Whether it's just the woke has shot the left in the foot, has shot liberalism in the foot.
I'd say I think it has.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it has. There's a huge, like the woke has gone too far.
Yeah,
and I think it's shocked and appalled the majority of people of either persuasion, even if they lean left or even if they lean right.
Yeah,
I think they've unified in the belief that these maniacs have gone too far.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of my impression.
Yeah.
My realization coming out of 2016 was that at first I thought it was, Trump might be the only person that Hillary could beat. And it turned out to be the other way, exactly the other way around.
Or Hillary was
maybe Hillary was the only person Trump could beat, right? And I think
you gotta think that. Like, is the Democrat bench that shallow that Kamala Harris was the only one they had?
I think they had to go with what and they left it too late.
They sure did.
When Biden,
so
Biden shit the bed, and then the Democrats are like, we're just sucking wind.
Yeah.
And then I think Harris was the only move they had.
Well, you know what?
No,
I don't know. I don't think so.
Harris. The problem was, one, they left it too late, but Harris was the only one who keep the money. Because,
what do you mean keep the money?
Because campaigns are corporations.
Okay, so
VP, since she was a member of the ticket, she was part of the corporation, right?
They would have to give a new candidate.
A new candidate other than Harris meant they had to give all the money back.
Yeah, but you know what? that rings kind of false to me, or not false. That's rationalization to me because the
short-
Democrats have
short-sighted.
never had a hard time raising money.
That's
I
true.
mean, they've got big tech on their side.
Yeah,
They've got Hollywood on their side. They've got the big mega corporations on their side. They could have made up the cash. They could have made it.
Yeah, they could have, but they didn't want to go through the effort, right?
I guess. Yeah. And again, what they could have done, it's not their mindset. They're a very top-down organization. They have been for the last 15 years. Like, again, with the way Clinton got the nomination. The membership wanted Bernie.
Yeah.
And
Well, a lot of people wanted Bernie. A plurality wanted Bernie for sure.
a big chunk wanted Bernie, right?
Yeah.
But the backroom dealers, like the
Yeah, they had these
the establishment of the Democratic Party.
they call them super delegates.
Yeah.
And she had all the
strong armed
Yeah.
Clinton through. I mean, what they should have done, in my view, is go to the convention and say, okay, we're going to select our delegate now. And at least that way, you would have some kind of juice behind them, right? You would have some kind of momentum behind them.
Yeah.
And it would have captured people's imagination. Like, imagine a primary that takes place in 72 hours. Like, it would have been something new and interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas when they just said, okay, this is your nominee with Harris, it was very top down, very uninspired, almost cynical.
Fuck. You don't see the Republican Party for the last 12 years being top down and cynical?
Because they actually had primaries.
Yeah.
I mean, like it or not,
I'm talking across the board.
Trump was selected by the Republican membership. Now, we can debate the efficacy or like the intelligence of that choice. We can debate the motivations.
I'm not even talking about the intelligence of the choice.
But
I am
still
talking about
won both.
Yeah,
he won all of those nominations fair and square.
It's a contentious issue even on the right, right? Because like Jonah Goldberg of the Dispatch, he is consistently and always he's like, I am a big proponent of smoke-filled rooms,
right?
Where people make decisions about who candidates should be behind closed doors, and transparency isn't always good for everything, right? So because he's like. People look at it the same problem. He's like, well, like the transparency and the openness is what got us Trump, and he was always been an ever-Trumper, right?
Yeah,
and he's like, he's a big proponent of the smoke-filled room because it keeps you from getting Trumps.
Yeah, so you don't see. Yeah, you don't want to see how the sausage is made.
But sometimes you get Harris.
Yeah, sometimes you get Harris
Or Hillary Clinton.
So, yeah, the smoke-filled room doesn't have a great track record either right now, Mr. Goldberg. But
yeah.
I see this going back to the Liberal Party in Canada. If I could be devil's advocate for a little bit and just kind of red team this. Yeah, I get it. You want to get rid of Trudeau because he's toxic. His brand is toxic. It's going to get you killed.
Absolutely is. And now the fact that he had to put out that fire.
But who takes over?
That's an embarrassment.
Who takes over?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly. Their bench is shallow. And again, this is a symptom of organizations that get into the cult of personality.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that cult figure leader, the Conservatives, I think, went through this in the Mulrooney age, where
I kind of wonder if maybe they're going through it again right now.
The Conservatives?
But it's going to work out probably this time.
I think their bench is deep. That if Poilievre got hit by a bus tomorrow,
no,
like Leslie and Lewis, just to name a name right off the top of my head, could step in, no problem.
Yeah, or Melissa Lantsman, or there's
Lantsman would be very good. Yeah, Rona Ambrose could come out of the wilderness again, right?
Ambrose is the only one of those names I recognize that has any brand value for me.
Yeah, but you're
not a conservative.
Yeah. No, I mean, because when
I've been known to vote conservative.
No, you haven't.
I have.
No, because like the last two,
work your own side of the
last
street,
two
pal.
races, the last
quit horning it. Look, this is our corner. We peed on it. It's ours.
You were just speaking red. What were you? The red team.
Red team, and I have voted New Democrat.
Up 4.
Twice.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I did. Well,
traitorous prevaricator.
That's true. But in my defense, I thought she was the best candidate available. Yeah. Anyway, beyond that.
No, but my thing is that I think the Conservatives run a risk with Poilievre because it wasn't a problem with O'Toole and Scheer because they didn't have personalities.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say they didn't have any personalities. At least Poilievre does.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. It's not just...
I'm not saying the Conservatives are there now, but I could see it happening if Poilievre sticks like in 2 terms.
Right. That he might kind of extinguish any flame beneath him.
Yeah.
Yep. Like just by taking up all the oxygen in the room or deliberately stamping down anyone who might.
Well,
take all the oxygen out of the room anyway, for sure. But
pull a Harper.
What's that?
Pull a Harper.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, he was pretty good at stifling a lot of shit. And that was one of the reasons Canadians wanted to get rid of him.
You know what? Harper didn't have the deep bench that Poilievre has.
Yeah.
I think he didn't have the talent.
He was building that party.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had to build the party from scratch. Now, and to a certain extent, from what I was reading about Trudeau putting out the fire, Trudeau did largely the same thing, in that when Trudeau took over as leader, they were in single digits of seats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now, before Ignatieff, who was leader of the Liberal Party? He was a Franco, long-time Liberal.
Yeah, Dion.
Dion,
Yes,
thank
Stéphane
you.
Dion.
Yes, I couldn't remember. Stéphane Dion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to remember that the other day. But anyway, so they were third party. They were in the political wilderness, and a lot of a majority of, even today, of the Liberal MPs were people who were part of Trudeau's personal networks. They were never more than 2 degrees of separation from his person.
The elder or the younger?
The younger.
Okay.
So he had kind of personal relationships with a big chunk, not everybody, but a big chunk of the Liberal caucus, where he phoned them or met with them personally to say, hey, I want you as part of my team. I'm taking over the Liberal Party. Now that I'm leader, I want you to run in this riding. So there are also huge personal loyalties to Justin Trudeau, the individual, at play within the Liberal Party. So it's very, very difficult for a lot of those folks to, even though they know it's got to happen, it's a really difficult thing
On
for
their
them
heads
to,
be it, man. I mean, every time anyone quotes the numbers, they're getting worse and worse and worse, and it's going to be the worst performance of any party ever in the history of anything, right? And
what so far? Well, if they get more than 2 seats, they're
okay.
and
With the exception of the Greens and the Rhinos.
No. I mean,
and the
Kim
Communist Party,
Campbell's
right?
Tories got 2 seats.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, largely, I don't blame Kim Campbell for that.
No,
I blame Brian Mulroney for that.
I don't think anyone can reasonably blame
No.
Kim Campbell for that.
I would still like Kim Campbell to go away and stop talking, but
Yes. Well, there's a reason why she was picked. There's a reason why she wanted that job. She's not very smart. And this comes to Liberal Party. Let's say you are someone, I'll say Dominic LeBlanc, I'll say perhaps François Champagne. Mark Carney has shown an interest, although I don't think he's really suited to it.
You don't think so? I'd say he's very suited.
I'm wondering if
He's got no personality.
Sure.
That's his problem.
I'm wondering if he's being groomed because of the moving him into that advisory role of the party.
Yeah, I think he was. And he might, I think he was the guy that they were thinking of putting in to take the fall on the next election.
Could be.
Whereas if, let's say someone who I think is probably the most capable, and that would be Dominic LeBlanc. Why would you do it now?
Well, you wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone who is actually capable enough
Yeah.
to lead the Liberal Party, why would you throw yourself on that sword?
And I think...
because you're not going to survive it. You're not going to be able to come back later and say,
that,
hey, I lost it once. But,
that massacre, that utter devastation that is coming politically.
Yeah, we don't have a tradition here of you getting multiple kicks at the can.
Yeah.
Right? Like in the States...
Very few countries.
Well, unless you're the NDP.
But it's a different locus there.
In the States... Yeah. In the States, Ronald Reagan ran for the Republican nomination twice.
Yep.
Richard Nixon ran for president twice.
Yep.
But
in Westminster parliamentary systems,
it doesn't.
It generally doesn't translate. So this is kind of the problem that the Liberals are in.
Yeah.
They don't have a deep bench.
Yeah.
They never they absolutely did not make a priority on their transition game, which I think any organization that is serious needs to do. Mm-hmm. They never groomed, the next generation of leaders.
Yeah.
Who didn't?
Liberals. Yeah. With that was part of the deal with the devil they made. And I don't think they realized it at the time when they brought on Justin Trudeau as the leader.
Nothing but name recognition.
Exactly. Yep. Good looks and name recognition.
Yeah.
And charisma. I'll say
no
that,
question.
right?
But as we found out, right, to me, and I've said this for a long time, he's Trump left.
Yes.
Right? He is absolutely full of air and nonsense. He doesn't.
Yep.
It's not a single intelligible thing comes
A
out of his fucking mouth.
megalomaniac, overwhelmed with arrogance and hubris,
Yeah.
who has an infinite confidence in his own infallibility.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Despite all evidence to the contrary.
Right. And I think if the liberal leadership, the senior members of the Liberal Party, the rainmakers, so to speak, if they knew fully what they were getting into, I don't think they would have selected him. I don't think they really understood the full. Well, like, I don't know a lot about narcissism. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, so I'm really reluctant to use it.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that he is a very clear-cut case of narcissism, and that narcissists are extremely good at manipulating people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
and I would say that if the Liberal Brain Trust could go back in time now, they would say, like, no, do not select Justin Trudeau because of those secondary and tertiary effects that you're going to get. In other words, one of them is going to be he's going to destroy your pipeline. Like, he will eliminate anyone underneath him who has the potential to replace him simply out of his own hubris and insecurity.
well, it's hard to prove a negative to me. So I'm looking at him kind of, okay, well, if not Trudeau, then whom, when, right? Because that might have been
Like, when did he take over? 2014?
2015. It was right at the time, of
Right before the election.
Right before the election,
Yeah.
because I think even going into the election or very shortly before, that was when the New Democrats were looking at kicking some serious ass because the Liberals were the lowest they'd ever been.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
he
they
sat one
lost
term
late.
as an MP.
Yeah.
Before he
Yeah.
took over leadership of the
Oh,
party.
did he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably parachuted in somewhere safe though, right?
Oh yeah.
Papineau.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
Yeah, like, so if they hadn't
didn't
done
have
that-
a lot of choice up to that point.
if
Yes,
they
that's
hadn't
very
done
true.
that, right? Let's say they wrote it out for an election
Yeah, without Trudeau in, say, in 2015. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, obviously the NDs weren't going to win, but they would have been the official opposition, maybe, right?
yeah,
Conservatives win,
yeah. They might have squeaked out. They might have squeaked out at least a minority,
Right,
Although
but where
that
does-
would have been what Harper's fourth,
Yeah.
right? But
which
where-
is almost unheard of
I don't think
in
almost. I think
Westminster.
Well,
Parliament.
certainly in Canada, nobody gets more than 3 men.
yeah, but I mean,
Yeah,
you've got
but
what?
like across Westminster parliaments, the pattern holds in all like UK, New Zealand, Australia.
Yeah,
as
even
well.
even like the UK's most successful, like
Yeah.
I mean,
Almost
from our-
nobody wins a fourth term.
like
How many
uh,
minorities did Harper have?
I think he had one.
Was it just one?
Yeah,
was
one,
it the
one,
last
is-
one?
one and two majorities.
Yes, his first was a minority, and then he won majorities after.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
And
can't
then
even remember.
Trudeau's
back
been
that far.
a majority and two
And then
minorities.
two minorities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the question for me.
Like
Under
who-
those circumstances,
Who else would you
does
take?
the Liberal Party ever rise out of the ashes?
Oh yeah,
You think
I
so?
think so, yeah.
yeah.
I think
There's
so.
only two governing parties in this country, right? Unless
Yeah.
there's a mass migration of voters to the NDP,
Yeah.
and that would involve an NDP
Well,
move to the center,
Yes.
right?
And
mean,
Jack,
you could-
Jack Layton doesn't get cancer.
Yeah, Jack Layton not getting cancer is a
Yeah.
big part of that.
Because that was the other thing. They didn't have someone who could fill his shoes.
Yeah,
He was a
exactly.
very
Yeah.
unique guy.
Yeah.
Very unique guy.
Speaking of NDP leaders, I actually enjoy watching Tom Mulcair do
Yeah.
his commentary
Yeah.
on CTV.
I enjoy his commentary as well. Yeah.
Right.
Even considering the source, I do enjoy his stuff.
Yeah.
It's too bad because I think he really, I think he's a much better politician now than he was at the time.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe because of his work in media.
Yeah.
He's a bit, he's got a step back, a broader view. Like being an analyst has made him reapproach things. I think he would be much better
Yeah.
now because he's not as shrill. He's much more. Maybe it's because he doesn't have a dog in the fight now.
It could be.
Yeah, could be. But yeah, I do enjoy his stuff as well.
Mulcair for PM.
No, I'm not going to go that far. I'm just saying that he would be a better politician.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mulcair-
not necessarily a leader of the executive, but a better politician.
Yeah.
Being a good politician, like for example, Trump is a great politician. Leader of the executive, that's another story.
He's a showman. He's not a
He
politician.
is. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, he's a
lot
showman.
of politics is showmanship.
A lot
right?
exactly. The guy knows how to work a room.
So how do we?
The greatest living American politician is still Bill Clinton,
Yeah, he's pretty good too.
right? Like as a politician,
Yeah, politician. Yep.
right? As a man who can play politics and play the political game,
Yep.
Bill Clinton is still without peer.
Yeah, he's
People
he's
think
pretty
Obama is great, but Bill
good. No, not compared to Clinton.
not Clinton. Like Clinton
Clinton's good.
is an iced Eskimos kind of guy, right?
Yeah, he was good.
Right,
He
like-
was really good.
Could pivot when
yeah.
could read the winds of change. You
Yep.
could pivot on a dime and do
Yep.
180,
Yep.
and make you feel good about it.
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
right?
totally. You tell you to go to hell, and you'd be looking forward to the trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so with Trudeau though, the Liberals are definitely in a pickle.
Yeah.
Like they need to get rid of him, but
they're
they
not
can't.
going to.
And they can't. They really can't. They have no mechanism. First of all, they have no constitutional mechanism within the party to remove a leader.
Yeah.
They don't have one. And even if they did, they've got no one who can take over. So really, at this point, like working it as if trying to be dispassionate, say if I was paid $2 million to run their campaign, he's their best shot. He is still their best shot, which is not saying that they got a good shot. I'm just saying he is the least worst option.
Justin Trudeau.
Yes.
He's not Jack Singh.
Well, I mean, if you're
they've got problems too.
I know.
if you're parachuted in as a liberal campaign organizer, campaign manager, you're probably thinking more about the future than you are like the next election.
Yeah,
like you're not going to win.
That was another thing. Their campaign manager resigned.
Yeah,
he walked away. I said, "Yeah, I'm not doing this.
I'm not gonna kill my record here."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right?
Yeah, get out.
You give me something to work with here.
Yeah, exactly. And
Well,
I
but
think
they
that
got
probably
nothing to work
happened.
with. I think their brand is too toxic right now.
I think he
until-
probably said these are changes that have to be made, and Trudeau said, "I'm not doing that." And so he said, "Okay, I'm out of here."
Yeah.
So, yeah, the NDP's got a situation. Why don't the NDP, the Greens, and the Liberals just unify? They're the same party. They've got the same policies. All they do is split the vote to the benefit of conservatives. Why do they do this? Or at the very least, cooperate and say, okay, BC, that's NDP. That's all you guys. Toronto, that's all Liberals.
Because
Maritimes, that's all Liberals.
Because there are fiscally conservative environmentalists.
Who is?
There are fiscally conservative environmentalists,
Oh.
right? Who
I
don't
could maybe...
who don't want to vote NDP and they don't want to
How
vote
many
Liberal.
of them? Like, could I fill 2 buses with them?
How many buses can you
Salt Spring
fill with
Island.
Green supporters in the first place?
At
Right,
least
like-
5. At least 5.
Right. 4 of them on Vancouver Island,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, but how big a constituency do you think that is?
I don't know. But that's so why you so my question back at you
Big
is
enough,
okay.
big enough to elect 2 MPs, but that's basically it, right?
And I don't think that that the fiscally conservative environmental vote is what gets Elizabeth May elected.
No.
I think the radical nut bar lunatic fringe is what gets Elizabeth May elected.
But that's all they are what'd you call them?
Radical nut bar lunatic fringe.
Okay,
sorry, I retract that. Radical moonbat lunatic fringe.
Okay.
Sorry.
The problem
I
is-
apologize to nut bars everywhere. You don't deserve to be associated with Elizabeth May.
Cadbury
That
with almonds.
radical
Meatballs.
moonbat lunatic fringe
Yes.
happens to be specifically focused on the environment and the environment alone in idealistic and not at all pragmatic terms.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So
Yeah, you don't hear a lot of fiscal conservatism coming out of Elizabeth May's mouth.
No, you sure don't.
Right.
But again, is there any substantial difference between the Green Party policy and the environmental policies of the Liberals and the NDP? Is there a substantial difference there that I'm not noticing?
well, I'm going to take a step back and a bit sideways
Yeah.
in answering that. But all we need to do is look at the protests against gay pride that were occurring this summer, because gay pride had nothing to do with the pro-Palestinian movement, right? It's that type of horseshit that's going on.
No, that makes
It's-
perfect sense. I'm sorry if you can't see that God, I can't even articulate.
I know you can't even keep a straight face.
But
You
if
can't
you
even get the
can't-
fucking words out of your mouth
if
because
you
it is
can't-
such fucking horseshit.
If you can't figure that out and see the inherent truth in how, Jesus, what are they saying anyway? Anyway, if you can't see the inherent truth in whatever it is that is, I can't help you.
And this is why
Jesus.
You gay people need to be supportive of people who would throw you off roofs
That's right.
if you were in their jurisdiction.
It's you know.
They're oppressing Palestine by having their drag queen.
I mean, we keep talking about the benefits of growing up the years that we did. We drank
Yeah.
out of garden hoses, right? What we had, here's the biggest benefit that we had in hindsight. We had Monty fucking Python, and they saw this from 1979 with Life of Brian to 1982 or 83.
Yeah.
I can't remember when Meaning of Life came out. They saw all this bullshit happening. They were a generation ahead of their times. And now we've got a generation of lunatics in our society who are behaving exactly like what we were laughing at a generation ago.
Yeah.
It's like, this is so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's kind of nuts. It's kind of nuts.
Are you the JFP? No, fuck you. We're the,
yeah,
we're the PJF.
We're the People's Front of Judea. Yeah, that's a little weird. But
Yeah, the life of Brian was really, really forward thinking in
Yeah.
that.
But beyond that, you got to think of the bigger cause. Like most of the conversations that I get into with leftists and progressives is that the bigger danger, or that it's the bigger concern is that a conservative government could get into power. Mm-hmm. That it would be better, like let's say I could take any Green supporter at all and say, hey, who would you rather have? A liberal, an NDP, or a conservative?
Right.
And I know how that's going to end 100 times out of 100. Likewise, if I could take an NDP supporter, a very diehard NDP supporter, who would you rather have, a Green or a liberal or a conservative prime minister? Again, this question is, you can predict with absolute certainty how it's going to end.
What do you think the answer is going to be? You think they're going to say the worst thing is a conservative?
Yes, 100%, unequivocally.
Except that there's 1.5 to 2 overriding factors to those statements, right? In a lot of cases, a lot of them are like, fuck those guys. They're traitors to the cause.
Who guys?
Right?
Which guys?
If you're Green, the NDs and the Liberals are traitors to the cause. They should be voting Green, right? They are worse than conservatives because
they're heretics.
They're heretics, exactly, right? And the other thing is, people, again, with the idealistic side of things in mind, they are not willing to look at things strategically.
I guess.
And we saw that on the right to
I
a certain
suppose.
extent when, when there was reform
Yep.
nationally, when there was Wild Rose provincially.
Yep.
Right?
But you expect that because the right has always been fissile. They're individualists. I don't expect this crap from the left. They're herd people, goddammit. You're collectivists. Get your act together.
Except they're idealists and they're fundamentalists. And
They're all about the hive mind. I mean,
they're hardline and
but
dogmatic.
Look at the immediate aftermath of the October Revolution, like all the different factions that the Bolsheviks ended up having to murder,
yeah, I guess.
right?
I guess.
And kept on murdering right up until
I did see some shtick on the internet, which again I don't pay a lot of attention to shtick on YouTube. But there's one thing that did capture my imagination, where he split the left into two cultural groups. There's the Western left and the Eastern left. Mm-hmm. And he said, like, the Western left takes its inspiration from Rousseau and the Fabians and that experience, and that they are.
And never met them.
They are the woke are the descendants of that experience. Whereas the Eastern left is Marx, Lenin, Mao, Pol Pot, that school.
Trotsky?
And yes. And the way he kind of gave characteristics of each. And one of them was for the Eastern school was that it's very dogmatic, and it has like the Western school can pivot. It's very good at the memory hole. That what we support today, if it's no longer working for us, we discard it immediately. Like on Monday, we decide we don't want it. By Wednesday, no one remembers it ever existed, and they carry on down the new path.
That's the West?
Yeah, that's the Western left. Whereas the Eastern left had a very, very, very difficult time making that change. Say, okay, they couldn't just say on Monday, okay, this policy no longer works for us. That would be an 8 to 12 year process. Recognizing this,
Or if they did,
Yeah,
it was like the guy whose name was associated with that policy would all of a sudden not appear in photos anymore.
when
That
they
went back
finally
20
made
years.
that change. But it was an exceptionally difficult process for them to do that. Like they were very dogmatic and very rigid. So once a policy was in place, you never questioned it. It was not questioned. It was not like you obeyed. That was it. So the process of re-examining and saying, okay, what's working for us, what's not working for us, how can we improve? So that process gets cut off at the knees, and it never really starts. And so, like, I'm not saying I'm signing on to that, but I'm saying, okay, that's interesting. How do organizations and cultures reevaluate what they're doing? And which ones, organizations, cultures, be it a corporation, be it a political movement, be it a sports franchise, by what process is that done? And how do you distinguish the ones who are good and tell apart the ones that are not so good at that? And so, yeah, maybe there's a bit of that at play in keeping these three strains of the left separate and divided in Canada. And I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to cry about it too much, because I think it's good for the country. It prevents that there'd be far more left-wing governments if they were unified. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying from a red team perspective.
Yeah.
Like, why are they doing this? I mean,
Well,
it makes
that's
no sense to me.
That's exactly where I was coming to you guys 6 months, a year ago. Whenever I said to you guys, "Well, stop bitching about the Tories not getting anywhere," right? If they're not speaking to the majority of Canadians, this is what you're going to get, right?
Well, look at the Tories in the UK.
Yeah.
They have no one to blame but themselves.
Yeah.
No one to blame but themselves. They abandoned what it means to be conservatives. They paid the price.
Yeah.
And they should be wiped off the face of existence. That party should die. It should never be resurrected. Let us speak their name nevermore.
Yeah, that sounds like British. That's the way British culture works.
No, it's the way
They're
our
not
culture-
traditional at all.
They have nothing. Yeah, no traditions. They have
no traditions.
no whatsoever.
The Tories are just something they'll be able to sweep under the carpet and come up with something.
Or at the
replace
very
it.
least, it should be extinguished for a couple of generations, the way the Conservatives were in BC.
Actually, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the person who's trying to rebuild conservatism in the UK? Because I don't think it's Nigel Farage.
Nope.
You don't think it's Nigel Farage?
No, I
I
don't.
think he's too toxic.
I don't think Farage is actually dedicated to conservatism either.
Yeah.
Like, I think
Oh, he's dedicated to something very right wing.
Yeah.
their right wing, just like left, is a continuum.
Yeah.
And for example, let me give you Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson likes to think of himself.
Are we still talking about that clown?
We are right now.
He's still, unfortunately, culturally relevant.
Yes.
He manages to keep himself
He
culturally
likes to
relevant.
think of himself as a conservative.
Yes.
But he has no qualms about using the power of the state
Absolutely.
to enforce his own brand of morality. In fact, the only difference between him and, say, Elizabeth May is that Elizabeth May wants the state to regulate the economy, and she wants the state to regulate personal morality. Tucker Carlson wants the state to regulate the economy and organized religion to regulate morality. But they both want all of those aspects of life fully regulated, as compared to, say, a guy like, say, a Daniel Hannan or the late Roger Scruton, who said, no, we don't need any organization to regulate those. The individual can regulate themselves.
They can't anymore.
Sure they can.
No, they can't.
Why can't they?
I have no trust in my fellow man anymore.
Well, yes, but you are the progressive representative on this show. And so if you didn't say that, I would ask you to leave the room, go have a cigarette, recenter yourself, and come back and then say that very statement.
Really? I could do with a stick. Thanks for bringing that up. Man.
The power of a spoken word.
Can I tell you how
Shall
much?
we- shall
have
we
I mentioned
pause?
how much cigarettes cost in Paraguay?
Pretty
very
cheap, eh?
70 cents a pack.
Holy cats. Did you smoke yourself? Did you become a 3-pack a day man when you were there?
No, no, it's less than a 20 pack
How
a day.
was it?
But
How much did you bring
How
back?
was it? Yeah, the maximum amount.
apparently twice as much. Unless someone from tax, customs, and excise is listening, in which
Yeah.
case
No one listens
just the
to us.
right amount.
There's only one guy in Calgary who actually listens to us, and he doesn't work in customs.
It's been so long since I traveled. I forgot what the limit was. I thought it was 2 cartons each, so we brought back 2 cartons
Right.
each.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's only one each.
It is only one each.
Oh wow. Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, and the problem is it's not like because your GST exemption,
Yep.
and your duty exemption goes up for the amount of time you're gone, but your tobacco exemption and your alcohol exemption does not.
Never changed.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So what brands? Was it a local brand? Was it American cigarette?
well, it's local brands.
Okay. So how did it compare to Canadian?
So about two cartons of Palermos, and they
I thought
were
that was American.
Palermos.
Yeah.
No, and they were
Okay. And so that's
hang on,
a
94.
Paraguayan
That's
brand?
47,000 Guaranis each.
Okay.
Now divide that by 5,700 Guaranis to the Canadian dollar.
Holy cats. Talk
Right.
about
I
hyperinflation.
see. This is where the math gets ridiculous. Here's how fucking ridiculous it was. So last Thursday, the day
47,000 divided by 5,700?
Yeah.
I'll do that while you're talking. Keep going.
so we're walking the streets of Asuncion, and I know I need another pack of smokes to get me through the trip home
$8.24.
for 10 packs. So divide that by
cats.
10,
Wow.
right?
Wow. Yeah, 82 cents a pack. Or
Okay.
82 cents
Now,
a pack, yeah.
my Kentuckys, which I'm
Yeah.
about to smoke one of.
Yeah, and that's a Paraguayan brand.
That's a Paraguayan
Yeah.
brand. Near as I can tell, I've never heard of it. I've never seen it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Right? They were, 3,600 Guaranis.
Okay, so...
No, so 36,000
Okay,
for a carton.
so that's
So
about
36,000
60% of the cost.
36,000 divided by 5,700.
36,000 divided by 5,700. $6.31.
Divided by 10.
Divided by 10.
So 63.
So
63 cents a
for
pack for my Kentuckys. My Palermos were high end. This is how stupid it was, and this is how Paraguayan I got in my head. So on Wednesday night, I went and changed the rest of my American money into Guaranis.
Yeah.
Fuck knows why.
Yeah.
I think I was thinking of buying some shit for my sons.
Yeah.
Right? Next day, I'm walking through the streets of Asuncion. I've got 8 hours left in town, tops.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I know I need a pack of smokes to see me through the trip home.
Yeah.
I stop by a street side vendor, and I see Kent's for sale. And I haven't smoked Kent since university.
Okay. That's
Right.
a British cigarette, isn't it?
No, it's actually American.
Oh, okay.
But I loved those things, right? So I'm like, I say to the guy, I want the Kents. He's like, oh, that'll be 19,000 Guaranis. I'm like, fuck you! I'm not paying $3 for that pack of smoke. sell me the Palermos for $1. You know, like
this is funny.
This is how stupid I got down there. Because I could have gotten four cartons of Marleys, and it would have cost me a few bucks more.
Yeah, a couple of bucks. Yeah.
Right, but when you're talking cartons, it
cup of
starts
coffee.
to add up.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just, yeah.
That's funny.
Anyways,
All right, let's pause.
I'm going to go have that
Yep.
Kentucky.
All right.
Alrighty.
Alrighty, we're back.
We're back after that brief interlude.
Yeah.
So, in addition to Trump, well, let's carry on from that. What do you think the ramifications for the Ukraine war are going to be?
It's a tough one.
Putin has already mentioned America in his speech. He was speaking at some kind of like a summit, Asian Asian Collective Security Summit there, and where he was already kind of, I don't know, sounded to me like he was trying to manipulate.
Trump?
Yeah, kind of. Where he was basically saying that, yeah, we're open to a reset of Russian-American relations, but America's going to have to come to us. We're not coming to them. And it's going to have to be on our terms.
Yeah. I was listening to the Thrice Accursed CBC on the way here. And they were talking about how a new Trump administration is likely to impact the Middle East,
Oh yeah, for sure.
and then started rolling into analysis about Ukraine just before I got here. And so I didn't get enough out of what was going on in the Ukraine, but basically the guy, he's embedded in Kiev right now, and he had been in Odessa. And his basic take on things when he was talking pre-election to Ukrainians, what they thought of Harris versus Trump, and most Ukrainians were like, "Who cares?" Right? They just didn't give a shit. Right? They just need this war to resolve itself in a way.
They were
acceptable.
focused on the immediate problem.
Right.
Yeah.
And his other take on things is that Zelensky's in a bit of a pickle right now because he's losing popular support, and popular support is going to need him to go to the table sooner than later.
Yeah. Well, the war fatigue, right?
Yeah. So
that was part of the brief that we got from the Unifier CO.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians are losing the war, and they know they're losing the war.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of the problem with the war being confined to a relatively small portion of their country, right? Like it's still, I mean, there were Russians in Kyiv at the beginning.
Yep.
And Kyiv is getting what, I guess, like you're saying that they're getting
hit every night.
Every night, right? Yep. But people in Western Ukraine up against the Polish border.
Yeah.
Right, it's not necessarily part of their day-to-day life as well, right?
Well,
and they've had to go to significant conscription. Yeah, I can't talk.
Well, and I guess this is a real sore point between the Ukrainians and their European allies.
Right.
In that the Ukrainians are desperately trying to protect their young generation.
Yeah.
Where I think what the age, you cannot be conscripted until you're like, what, 27?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's in your late 20s.
Oh, wow.
And of course, the Ukrainians are doing this because they're trying to say, I think as many words, they're trying to say, look, have your children.
Yeah.
Then we'll take you.
Yeah.
Whereas the rest of Europe is saying, like, no, you got to start drafting guys who are 18. You got to get everybody in there. Like, you need all hands on deck. And the Ukrainians are steadfastly trying not to do this.
The Ukrainian plan seems more sustainable in the long term to me.
What's that?
The Ukrainian plan seems more sustainable.
Like the victory plan.
Well, they're
just
like
to do it the way you just described.
Holding off conscription the way they are. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say basically, okay, have your kids. If you do not have children by the age of 23, we're taking you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here's your draft notice at 18.
Yeah.
You now have 5 years to start fathering kids. If you don't, if you father your kids, okay, we'll leave you alone till 28 because you got to raise those babies. But at 23, you don't have kids. Okay, you're going. I mean, their national survival is at stake.
Yeah.
Like, they are going to be extirpated as a people if they lose this war. So, desperate measures for desperate times, right?
And I think that's what needs to kick in the West as well as that realization. And that's where some sort of agreed upon path needs to be hammered out, right? And I think that's the big question mark with Trump coming in. What is the West's dedication to this going to be across the board, including the U.S.? What's it going to be without the U.S.?
And I think that's the operative question, because to be honest, I don't think there's going to be a huge difference in American support, whether it was a Harris win or a Trump win.
How are the House and Senate looking?
Oh, it's
all Republican.
It's all Republican. Yeah.
Is it
They
really?
took the Senate back. They kept the House. Yeah.
Yep.
No shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the down ballot, the gubernatorial races.
Don't look so depressed. When Trump got elected last time, he had a unified House and Senate, and he still couldn't repeal Obamacare.
Yeah, and most presidents.
Well, because he had nothing to replace it with.
Whenever there's a change from one party to the other in the United States, it usually goes with a supermajority for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
Clinton had that. Obama had that. Reagan had that. You get the White House and the House and the Senate. Until the first midterm elections, you're going to lose one of them.
Actually, I don't think Reagan did have that until his second term.
It's pretty rare, though. It's the pattern. It's the pattern. The new president has both houses until the midterms.
I'm trying to remember, but I seem to recall that until the blue or the red wave or whatever it was that got Newt Gingrich to be Speaker of the House in Clinton's second term.
Mm-hmm.
that Democrats had always controlled at least one house of Congress from the end of the Roosevelt administration up till then.
The second
Well, I
one.
could be wrong.
Yeah, and because Roosevelt had unified Congress for quite a lot of his administration.
Point of order. It was mentioned earlier that Nixon ran twice.
Yes,
Didn't he run 3 times, including 60? He ran against Kennedy.
he
right?
ran against Kennedy.
Yep.
And he ran in 68 and won. And he ran in 72 and won.
Yeah, no, but he
didn't win the presidency.
He didn't win the presidency in 60.
Right.
So yeah, he ran 3 times. But
He
I
ran
mean,
3 times.
but so did Reagan, right? Because
Yeah.
Reagan ran against Gerald Ford. Tried to primary Gerald Ford in 76 when Jimmy Carter got elected,
Yeah.
and then was elected in 80 and again in 84.
But he didn't run against Carter.
No, he tried. He tried to.
He
Primary.
tried to win the primary.
Yeah.
Whereas Nixon won the primary in 60.
Yeah, Nixon did win the primary.
Okay. So I was just, again, that was just a point of clarification for me. I was just like, am I missing something here?
Yeah, no, you're correct. Nixon didn't win the primary and ran in the general.
You heard it here, folks.
Whereas Reagan did not win the primary.
One of Steve or Patty, pardon me,
Oh my God! You dead named me.
just said I was right.
It's happened a couple of times, but not more than that. Happened a couple of times, but not more than that.
So what are you looking for?
I was trying to find the name of this guy. He's an Irish diplomat who went to Ukraine after the cry went out for help in 2014 to try and help build after the Maidan to try and build the Ukrainian civil service,
Right.
and try and professionalize it. And one of the things they were talking, he was on I believe a Times radio podcast where they were trying to understand why is the United States or the Biden administration slow rolling its aid to Ukraine. Like, it seemed that the Americans were content to just keep the Ukrainians alive and not let them win.
Yeah.
And they were trying to ask that. And he leveled the same charge against the Germans. Mm-hmm. And his conclusion was that, as one of his Ukrainian counterparts said to him, that Washington and Berlin can envision the world without or with a Ukrainian defeat. They cannot envision the world with a Russian defeat.
Yeah.
And that the Americans were more frightened of a destabilized Russia that descends into civil war as an aftermath of a defeat in Ukraine.
Right.
They were more worried of that than, say, the creation of a rump Ukrainian state,
Yeah.
that exists on paper but is, loses, 20% of its territory and is a vassal state to Russia. So that was basically the accusation.
And the American foreign relations blob has a real, and you've seen this actually in Gaza as well, they have a real aversity to escalation, what they term as escalation.
Yeah.
They always want, they never want anything to escalate, even though sometimes you have to escalate to win.
Yeah, or
Right.
at least get a result, or at least get peace. Yeah.
Like,
just get it over with.
Because Reagan had this problem when he was elected the first time, and it was like the State Department and again the Foreign Service and the intelligence blob, they were just like the Cold War was this thing that was ongoing, it was going to go forever.
Yeah.
And Reagan got in there and he's like, I think we should win the Cold War.
Yeah, and they didn't want to. Yeah, so no.
Yeah.
There's also, I think, the United States has a very, very bad habit of thinking they can manipulate events around the world through the power of their diplomacy behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And they always overestimate their ability to do this. They always think they can pull the puppet strings, out of the public eye and that they can influence events, and they're always wrong.
Yeah.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
They get the results they're looking for.
Like what?
I don't know, Latin America, like all of it.
Okay, like
except for Nicaragua eventually. I mean,
and Bolivia and Venezuela.
Bolivia?
Yeah. Who's running Bolivia now?
I have no fucking idea.
He's not a friend of the United States. He's a buddy of the Sandinistas.
And Ecuador.
Yeah. How about Brazil? They didn't get the guy they wanted there.
Yeah.
So
Well, okay, I guess I'm going back a few years. We look at the 70s and 80s.
Allende. That's the only time I think the United States really got the result they wanted. Sure as hell didn't in Cuba.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's...
Well, even currently, the current American, like the Foreign Service or like American blob, doesn't really like Argentina the way it is.
No.
They didn't want Milei to win.
They didn't want Milei in there. They're not getting what they want out of the Mexicans.
Oh, they're definitely not. No.
So
I mean, anti-Americanism
Mexico's
big...
not getting what it needs out of Mexico.
It never has. But the point is that the United States does not have the influence it thinks it does.
Yeah.
And so that's why I kind of think that the $61 billion that came last spring, that finally made it through U.S. Congress, I think that was the last, no matter who won, that was going to be the last big aid package from the United States.
Yeah.
Like, no matter who won, there wasn't going to be another big aid package to save the Ukrainians.
I'm not sure. You said the U.S. and Germany, or the U.S. and Europe in general are scared?
The specific mention was Germany.
Yeah, because how's the rest of Europe? Because I know the Poles and the Baltic states aren't looking at...
Russians. Yeah,
well, and Macron is pretty bellicose about the whole thing too, right? Like he's
the one
putting French troops.
He's talked about sending troops.
And then it's just that Germany is the one that has been dependent upon Russian natural gas.
Yeah,
much more than the others.
Yeah,
so that's why.
And they've come knocking on the door, and Trudeau won't see them. And that's another reason for just getting rid of the clown. I mean, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. And also, I also wonder if maybe Scholz was compromised in some way. Because some of the stuff he bent backwards to protect the Russians, even though ultimately it cost him his own government.
Yeah,
because his coalition partners were pushing. His own defense minister resigned over Scholz's slow rolling and reluctance to give aid, and doing everything he can to prevent aid to the Ukrainians. Yeah. Like in his own party, his own defense minister resigned. So I don't know what was going on with that guy. He's another one who's not going to be on the political scene much longer. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in Germany, either in January or March, depending when the election finally is.
Yeah.
Well, so this rolls into a question you asked last night by text about the left and white supremacist boogeymen.
Oh yeah.
Right. So
it does.
Well, I kind of wanted to pick your brain on that. Like, so
Nazis and Ukraine?
For the record, when you guys send out emails and texts and stuff like that, I generally find right here, right now is the venue for putting this on the table. I don't have a lot of energy or focus to put into long text discussions and any very interesting stuff. So I guess when it comes to white supremacy, if that's specifically what you're talking about, I'll circle back to that in a sec. But if we're talking about variations on a theme, right, are we talking about white supremacy? Are we talking about colonialism, settler mentality?
No, it was like skinhead thugs
or white privilege. Because I had an interesting time of it.
Well, just
in Paraguay, because
background for anyone like the two people who are going to listen to this. What it was is I put out. No, there's only two.
It says here on 5.
And that's got to be VPN. So anyway, what the background for the for all couple of these listeners? The background is that I sometimes have conversations with. I cheat on Trent, and I have conversations with other leftists sometimes. And one thing I've noticed about them, where I generally don't add anything, I just like to let them talk because I want to know what their mindset is, what their concerns are, where they're coming from.
We should be so lucky.
And that's not your job, buddy.
He gets wound up by other leftists and then comes here and dumps on Trent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of. But I noticed that they talk a lot, and I'm not being mocking. They are genuinely, deeply worried about white supremacy and the presence of like a neo-Nazi underground. And so I thought, okay, there's a possibility that maybe this is just anecdotal, purely luck of the draw of the people who I come into contact with.
No.
And so I put the question out to the my interlocutors here. Does this match with the leftists they know? Is this a genuine? Is this something that is on the collective mind of the left?
I think you and I have touched on this a number of times. Every time we talk about the Freedom Convoy, right? My distaste for the Freedom Convoy has varying levels, right? The primary level is I just think they're a bunch of fucking immature whiners.
Okay, but did you think
who
that
behaved
they were
poorly?
Did you think that there was a large component of neo-Nazi white supremacists
there was a component of homophobic, potentially racist, just all that shit that kind of tends to end up lumped together in certain psyches, right? Lazy souls, I call them. Right?
Okay. And you think that was a sizable...
It's sizable enough that...
In the trucker convoy?
That... And I know you guys have a problem with the mainstream press, right? But again, when it comes to politics, especially in this day and age, we see it from the left. We also see it from the right. These are the guys getting all the exposure because they are the most outrageous. They're the ones who are going to get the most attention. The most airtime, the most commercials, right? They're the ones who are going to get you viewership.
Yeah, okay.
Right? It's all the elements that go with that. Do I think it was massive? I'm not going to go that far.
Do you think it had influence?
Probably,
like within the other trucker protesters?
That's tough to say. I mean, knowing me, I could probably spend a whole episode dissecting that question, right? Influence. Yeah, some.
What makes you think that they were present?
Just enough incidents of, we've talked about them before. The people shitting on rainbow doorsteps. Like people had a rainbow colored
and people
welcome
defecated
people
on
defecating on them,
and they were definitely the trucker protesters who did that. Well, I suppose.
Yeah, it was part of that whole thing.
I guess that's a safe assumption because somebody, like, if you got a whole influx of like 1,000 protesters in town, and then all of a sudden somebody takes a dump on your welcome mat, and it did never happen before. I suppose it's a safe assumption.
I think there was a certain amount.
Although,
and again,
if I was going to be a welcome mat dumper, that would be a great time to do it because I could pin it on them.
And it's.
I confess I had not heard of that.
These days,
Me either.
Did you hear that? I hadn't heard of that, but Trent heard of that.
These days, we're seeing all over the
mat dumping.
We're seeing the politics. We're seeing it play out in the U.S. now. And these extreme elements, they are not representative of the Trump administration, but they are a loud and vocal and very present portion of the support, right? And
would you hazard to say put a percentage estimate on it?
I'd say it's probably single digits.
Yeah, 5 to 7.
Might be a
5 to 7% of
right?
America of Trump voters are white supremacists.
Yeah, because there's probably not that many dyed in the wool in the whole of the U.S. Right, but we're seeing
like not willing to go to war for the white preservation of the white race, but harbor white supremacist notions.
Yeah,
you'd say 5 to 7%
of Trump support. Maybe,
yeah.
Right? I have nothing to base that on. Right? But we're seeing the recent elections in Germany, especially in Eastern Germany, right?
Yep.
We got far right coming out there. We're seeing it in Austria. We've seen it in.
Except
I can't remember if it's the Czechs or the
those
Slovaks.
guys, like specifically AFD and the name of the Austrian equivalent escapes me right now. They are a one-trick pony. Like if the SPD in Germany wants the AFD to disappear overnight, literally dry up and blow away at the stroke of a pen, close the borders, stop immigration.
Yeah, but
AFD completely disappears overnight.
Yeah, but now you're messing in Brexit territory, right? Because
how?
Well, closing the borders in the European Union.
Well, okay, you can still keep the Schengen Agreement, but end immigration.
What? Yeah, now we're back to the immigration question.
Yeah, or everything.
That is the question.
That is the question.
Right.
Like, again, if you want AFD to disappear,
Yeah.
Immigration is the universal
Stop
issue
immigration.
right now.
yeah,
Right? Like everywhere.
Kinda.
It's
Everywhere.
an issue here.
Yeah.
It was an issue in the U.S. election.
or at least
it's an
across
issue
the
in
Western
Europe.
world.
Yeah.
So, like, there is no great support, and like this is where the term far right's kind of, I think, being used inaccurately, in that it's a single issue, and that's immigration. That's all it is. That's all AFD has. Now, if you look at the AFD platform, they cover a whole bunch of stuff. They talk about crime. They talk about justice reform. They talk about reform of the social system. They got a whole bunch. They have a full, complete platform. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Everybody who votes AFD, okay, not every. I'm sure there's 3 guys in Germany who actually like the rest of the AFD's platform, maybe 4. But the point is that the AFD is Sweden Democrats. Again, I can't remember the name of the Austrian party. Vlaamsblok, or is that the name of them? And Geert Wilders' party in Holland. Front National in France.
Yeah.
It's not Front National anymore. It's
They've changed. There's something else. Marie Le Pen. Her people.
the daughter.
Yeah. One
Union Nationale? Maybe?
could be. One issue.
Yeah.
Meloni in Italy.
Yeah.
One issue.
But you've just
That's
named
it.
it. But these are the parties taking power, right?
But they've got one issue.
Yeah.
If you take away that issue, they go away.
Right. But
If the left simply got over their fatal attraction with immigration, which I don't get, if they said, okay, we'll stop immigration.
Let's talk.
Gone.
Let's talk. I mean, you and I are kind of on the same page. We're all on the same page, kind of, when it comes to immigration. It's not being done well, right? But let's, for a moment, circle back to the conversation about Spain and the uses of the left, and when is the left useful?
Yeah.
Right.
Or what is the best that the left has to offer?
Right. So I would put that, the concept of immigration, with the state of the world it's in today, and the way it's been for a long time. It's felt to be a social responsibility, right? Looking at
amongst the pro-immigration constituency.
Well, yeah, just going, okay, so how do we care for our fellow men who are fellow humans?
Yeah, fellow human beings. Yeah.
Who are born into
Poverty,
abject
despair.
poverty in the deserts of Chad.
Sure.
Right? How can we help that society and the individual members of that society? Right? We can take them in. We happen to need people as well, right? Given our birth rates, right? So it's not being managed well, but
Understate, which
that's what needs taking care of.
Powerful understatement,
as we've discussed many times. But it's not about not having immigration, because our society is not going to survive. Canada is not going to survive.
That is your view.
Well, we've had that discussion.
And I disagree with you completely. Canada would survive quite nicely without immigration.
We've got a declining population. We don't have the birth rate to keep up.
Immigration does not solve that problem. Because the children of the immigrant immediately, and this is not just Canada, this is everywhere, immediately adopt the birth rates of the host population. So you're not solving the problem. You're just exacerbating it, because each immigrant then brings 2 sets of parents over.
Okay, again, that's part of the mismanagement.
Yeah.
Right? So let's set that particular notion aside. Yes, we're trying to...
And in the Canadian context, it doesn't even work, because we are so far away from immigrant-generating countries. You got to generally fly here. You can't just migrate here like you can, say, the United States or Europe. So by the time the individual has enough capital to get the plane ticket to get here, they're already past their prime childbearing years. So immigration in the Canadian context, the idea that, we need it to pump up our demographics, is a completely specious argument. It just does not hold water. There's another agenda at play. It's not demographics and it's not economics.
Like I said, if we're looking at this going, and agreeing with you that there are a whole bunch of mismanagement concepts that need to be looked at and dealt with differently, right? having that social responsibility for the lesser off.
Sure.
In
But
globally.
why is importing them the only means? Because we are not the first person to have this conversation. I very clearly recall this being discussed in a debate in the 1990s.
Well, I'm sure.
Where someone was saying that, like, why is the only, like, the social responsibility argument was brought up.
Yeah.
You say, why can we not help them where they are? Would that not be more efficient? Wouldn't every dollar spent in that cause go further in Chad where they are and immediately shot down racist? And, you know, it was a non-starter amongst the pro-immigration debaters. It was a debate team amongst them. Absolute no, not an issue. The only way we can deal with this is to bring people over here.
Well, I would disagree with that.
Oh, of course, it's a common sense issue.
It's
but I don't understand why. I mean, this is becoming a matter of electoral survival. The left-wing parties in Europe are clinging to this idea that no, we must have open borders. Look at the damage it did to the Biden-Harris campaign. I mean, it did such damage to them, but the Biden administration refused to take action on their southern border. They just would not do it. And I don't get why.
Why?
It was probably the single biggest, I'll say inflation was probably the single biggest issue. Mm-hmm. But it was definitely within 2 or 3. You know, like in the American election, and it absolutely cost them. Absolutely cost them. And I don't understand why the left-wing parties are committing suicide like this. Like, why are they so beholden to this issue, even though it costs them their political future?
For the same reason that we've seen, as previously discussed this episode. The Greens are stuck on the Greens.
That idealism?
The NDs are stuck on the NDs. The Liberals are stuck on Trudeau.
That kind of choked you, that caught in your throat. As you
the same way that healthcare as two-tier just cannot be discussed in this country, right? Because people have just they've got these.
They've made it their hill to die on.
These sacred cows that they just cannot sacrifice, right?
You just can't move the Overton window within there.
Yeah, I guess, They just cannot open their minds enough to consider any other way.
So, and again, it's pure dogmatism.
Yeah.
There cannot be any allowances for pragmatism. You can't even have the conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
So, I agree. If we can do it in the country, we should do it in the country. Right?
Well,
because people, if we can create, don't people still do that?
What's that?
Go and help dig wells or give money for wells. I guess part of the problem is going to be someone's going to point out, well, we sent all this money. Look at Gaza as an interesting example. All this money is being sent to them. It's being funneled through Qatar and doesn't make it any farther.
Yeah.
Right.
I have heard some about that. Like
if you look at like charities in Africa, like the big kerfluffle that the YouTuber Mr. Beast took some YouTube proceeds and went to Africa and just drilled wells.
Right.
And the NGO world lost their fucking minds.
Yes.
Because why?
Well, because he was doing direct action.
Yeah.
He wasn't going through them.
Because guess what NGOs are? NGOs are jobs.
Yeah. Jobs for their staff. Like
for staff members,
every now and then you'll see a news article about it, like what percentage of money that's donated to UNICEF actually makes it.
The number I've always heard is 5%. Like 1 nickel in every dollar donated to UNICEF actually makes it
to the program. That the rest gets caught up along the way in
it's all administration.
And
that's before you get to the concept of corruption.
Exactly. It's not corruption. Right? It's just bureaucratic bloat. It's all legal. It's all above board.
Yeah.
It's just administrative bloat. And I think that's definitely, that definitely Mr. B stepped on some sacred cows there.
Oh, he stepped on a lot of sacred cow patties.
We kind of exposed him as being a racket,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because largely aid NGOs are a racket.
Yeah. Anyone who goes in...
It's even the same as like charities here, right? Like in nonprofits, right? Like, MAD doesn't go away, even though drunk driving is way down from what it was in the 80s, right?
MAD just switched its target now to something else.
You know, and the gay and lesbian advocacy groups, once gay marriage was passed and civil rights for gay people were passed, those groups didn't go away.
Yep.
They transitioned.
Find a new cause.
Quite literally. And transitioning was the transition was to transition.
What was it? What's his name? He's an American journalist he's kind of a muckraker. And he does short videos on this. He did a short 5-minute video on the evolution of protesters, professional protesters. Yeah, where like you get a cause, just like exactly like that, where you're protesting, where there's the case of genuine injustice, where say gay rights, say in the 1960s, in the age of Stonewall, like absolutely there is injustice there. Yeah, but. Yeah, the situation has changed. Now they have full equal rights before the law, and you'd have to go a long ways. You'd have to really look to find somebody that lost their job because they were gay, or got kicked out of their apartment because they were gay, or were denied a bank account because they were gay. But they still like that feeling of community, that feeling of purpose, that sense of fraternity, and cause. So they need something else to agitate for.
Yeah,
so they transition, find a new cause.
And the problem compounds now because, like, if you look at Twitter bios on the left, right, everybody in their bio has, they do this, and activist.
Yeah,
right? Activist. Everyone's an activist.
Everyone's got to be an activist.
No, this society is not designed to function with everyone being
Everyone
an activist.
being an activist. Yeah,
it's like you need.
It's almost like a virtue signal.
Well, it absolutely is.
Yeah. Everything's about virtue signaling these days.
Well, on the left,
right?
Yeah.
But even I think activism, like, I'm trying to draw a parallel here. Maybe it doesn't work. In World War II, I think in the Canadian Corps, by and large, the best commanders were militiamen.
Yes.
Right, like Hoffmeister.
Yep. The guys who were not part of the peacetime army in the 1930s.
Exactly, right? I think activism works better if your activists aren't professional activists, right? Like they're people, regular people living regular lives who see an injustice that motivates them. Yeah. That's effective activism.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the kind of once the issue is resolved, they go back home.
And that's where the passion is going to be altruistic as well. They're stepping on board because they actually give a shit about the issue.
If you come out of university saying, I'm going to Wall Street to make money, but I'm an activist.
Yeah.
I'm going into law. I'm going to learn to be an environmental lawyer.
Yeah.
At this big, huge law firm.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm an activist.
But I'm an activist.
Right, because there's money in suing Exxon every year. Or
whatever it is, yeah.
And I get...
Well, anyway, just circle back to where we were. The one rumor I've heard is that Trump is going to present a plan to both Zelensky and Putin, saying we freeze the front line where it is. That stays with Russia. Ukraine pledges not to join NATO for 20 years. Ukrainian security is going to be vouchsafed by American equipment, where the Americans are going to, American equipment is going to protect the Ukrainian army. Here's the weak point in it. The Europeans pay for it. So the Europeans basically buy American equipment and then give it to the Ukrainians.
So the military-industrial complex is happy.
Yep. Well, but the European military-industrial complex is not happy.
Well, yeah, like what's the incentive of the Europeans to do that?
Right? Like Rheinmetall's not happy. They would rather sell the Ukrainians Leopards than have General Dynamics sell them Abrams,
totally.
right? Like,
so I can see the Europeans saying, well, tell you what, okay, we'll go with that, but we'll equip the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
You guys keep your shit.
Yeah.
I can see that. The other thing
makes more sense, too.
I cannot see Putin agreeing to this.
No, probably not.
The Ukrainians won't like it.
It depends how crazy
Trump
accept it. It depends how crazy Trump comes off in the negotiation and what he's prepared to threaten Putin with, right? Like,
well, yeah. Like if Putin tells me go fuck yourself, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, you'd almost have to say, hey, that old industrial heartland you have on the other side of the Urals, it's in range of B2s that you can't shoot down.
Or Trump could say, okay, look, and this is what Victor Davis Hanson has postulated, is that the counteroffer that Trump gives is that, okay, if you don't accept this in, say, 48 hours, I am going to turn off all the taps, or I'm going to turn on all the taps. I am going to
Yeah.
flood Ukraine with arms and equipment, and there will be no restrictions on
Yeah,
their
and
use.
they can, yeah.
They're going to get ATACMS up the yin yang, and they will be able to do with them whatever they want. So
Yeah.
you got a choice.
Yeah, if we can figure out how to strap an SM6 onto an F-16, boy, that's going to be something else.
Yeah, exactly. Like they will just open up everything. So I'll give them F-16s. I'll give them all of the F-16s. I'll clean out all the National Guards. We're going to upgrade that crap anyway.
Yeah.
All of those M1s I got sitting in the desert, they're all coming here. So you got 48 hours to sign. Yeah. That's what we're getting out of. That's the speculation that's coming out of the near Trump side. How trustworthy? How much of that is? Yeah, how much of that is wishful thinking?
I don't know.
I think a lot.
I don't see that counter statement being made.
Yeah, I'm skeptical. I got a feeling that the Russians might be able to play Trump. I don't know. Although the problem with the Russian, like the speech that Zelensky gave afterwards, where he was totally playing Trump. I think Zelensky is smart enough to play Trump. I don't think Putin is. Putin is held back by his own ego and his own megalomania, and that puts him at a disadvantage in trying to manipulate Trump. I don't think he is. I think he's too caught up in his own arrogance to successfully do that. That's the big weakness the Russians have. That said, Russian info ops, they're on point, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They are totally on point. They have completely infiltrated the Republican Party.
They have been in for a decade now.
Oh, I mean,
all over
really,
the
in the
place,
last 3 years, they are on point.
Yeah.
But again, this is why they were doing the same thing with the Democrats, in that the Democratic Party was no friend of the Ukrainians, completely slow rolling. The Ukrainian offensive of 2023 largely failed because the Americans would never give the equipment in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
Always. They deliberately slow rolled the F-16s. They held off with the Bradleys. I mean, for the first, was it late?
No,
The entire 2022, the
how is
Americans
that-
said, no, we're not giving Abrams, we're not giving Bradleys, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And they only gave them M777s. We're not going to give them M109s. We're not going to give them ATACMS, or they weren't going to give them HIMARS. Okay, we'll give them HIMARS, but we're not going to give them ATACMS. Okay, now we'll give them ATACMS, but we're going to restrict your use on them. And they were not friends of the Ukrainians. If the Ukraine is going to be saved, it's going to have to be done by the Europeans. But I don't know if the Europeans have the courage to do it. I think they're too fickle and they're too weak. The Poles, no. Scandinavians, no. The Balts, no. But they're very limited in what they can do. The French, the British, the Germans, the Dutch, the Danes, the Italians.
British, we've already discussed the British and the French seem to be on board with pushing through on this.
Not now.
Starmer
Not now.
hasn't stepped back away.
He hasn't. They're not delivering that promised thing. It's in the news yesterday. Ukraine's upset with them because the British have said, okay, we're not sending that shipment of Storm Shadows we said we're going to send. We're not sending it. So for some reason, Starmer's pulling back now. And then with the elections in France, the new government is the French, the Italians, and the Spanish are far too concerned on their own domestic issues, primarily with immigration and how to manage that. That it's just not an issue with their electorates. They're just not that concerned about.
Should be.
They should be.
It should be.
But I also think that is also the hand of Russian information operations.
Oh yeah, no question.
No doubt about it. They know how to manipulate. They use the digital age to manipulate public opinion. Yeah. So again, the Scandinavians, they get it. The Eastern Europeans, they get it. But are they big enough economically to keep Ukraine afloat? I don't know.
Well, time will tell.
I mean, I think the Finns and the Poles, they get it. Like, they're on the border. The Balts certainly get it. Yeah. But their economies are too small. They can't prop up Ukraine on their own. Because, again, they also have to arm themselves, right, at the same time. Poland has got the biggest economy, but even then, there's limits.
Well, they're still at the early stages of a buildup anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe the South Koreans might contribute a bit, but again, if they were going to do it, they'd have done it.
Did you because Perun just did an episode on the North Koreans in Russia. Mm-hmm. Did you? I don't
No,
know.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good. He was talking about ways that South Korea and the United States could respond, and
But
of course my attention span's too short. I couldn't.
I don't think
Articulate those here, but-
Like again, the South Koreans could make a huge impact, but I don't think they will, because if they were going to, they had done it.
I think they're in a better place to do it now with North Korea preoccupied in Russia.
Yeah, I think they're more incentivized now than they were.
Totally.
Because there was like
Still haven't done it.
because South Korea has been actually pretty restrictive about trying. This is one thing you point out: is South Koreans have been pretty restrictive about allowing how their equipment would find its way to Ukraine. Like they're not selling to Ukraine; they're not selling necessarily to people who would directly sell to Ukraine.
Yep.
So they're trying to make sure. And so, if they could get rid of those restrictions, that could be a big impact.
But again, I don't think they're gonna.
They might because they were trying.
Okay, well, why are they waiting?
I think that they have to adapt to the current situation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like the
This has only been in the news for a couple of weeks, right? We're talking about moving entire.
I don't know. I'd say it's pretty cut and dried.
When did North Korea blow up the roads? That was like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Oh no,
maybe.
longer now, like a month.
Was it?
Yeah, and they've had guys in Russia now for like 2-3 weeks.
No, the Ukrainians. It's only starting to make the news that the Ukrainians are actually encountering them.
Encountering
North
them
Koreans
lines,
in
but
Russian
they have been
uniform.
training in. They have been in preparation for combat for over 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
In Siberia. So I mean, come on, man. If the South Koreans were going to, I mean, lifting those restrictions is the stroke of a pen.
So here's
It's literally the stroke of a pen. It's a piece of legislation. That's it.
What if we end up seeing a North Korean revolution out of all this? Right?
You know, maybe, but I got to think that it also depends on how the Ukrainians are deployed, or not the Ukrainians. The North Koreans are deployed.
I have a feeling the Russians are going to like treat them like they did like the prisoner conscripts. Right?
Yeah.
They're going into the meat grinder.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, it's because they're such an open-minded, tolerant society when it comes to
Maybe.
people that are different.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But again, what's the incentive for
Speaking
North
of
Korea?
races everywhere.
Maybe the North Koreans made a deal with the Russians in that you're going to give me some nuclear technology. You're going to give me, when the war's over, you're going to give me state-of-the-art fighter aircraft and missile defense.
It could be. Yeah.
Maybe that's what, and it said, in return, I am prepared to give you 300,000 soldiers.
Yeah.
That you can just throw away, that you can just put into the meat grinder, and I don't care. I can very much see the North Korean leadership doing that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Say, yeah, I'm willing to trade 300,000 peasants for what will protect my regime.
A couple squadrons of SU-30s.
Yep, and S-400 and nuclear weapons that I can then use to extract concessions from South Korea and Japan.
He's already got nuclear weapons.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a good delivery system.
No, that's true.
So yeah, like better missile technology, so then I can extract concessions from my neighbors.
Yeah.
I can see him willing to trade, 400,000 soldiers, because it's people he can't feed anyway.
Yeah, he doesn't feed them anymore.
Yeah. So I can see him doing that, and yeah, like the Russians just loading them in.
And even if he could get them out of his country for a year, right?
Yeah.
Like even if they come back in 2 years.
Even if they come back, it's 2 years he's not feeding them.
Yeah.
Right? So, I can see the Koreans doing that. Pretty happy about that. But yeah, it could also lead to an uprising in North Korea.
That just popped into my head.
I mean, once word gets down to battalion level, that's a death sentence.
Yeah.
You go to Russia, you're not coming back. So like we send, first brigade, they go, gone. Like 6 guys come back. Okay, we send the second brigade. Okay, so we got first brigade's gone. Second and third brigade are in the pipeline. They all head up to Russia. Okay, they're fine. They're in isolation. Okay, they don't see anybody outside of their own brigade in Khabarovsk or Primorsky Krai or wherever they're training. So first brigade goes into the meat grinder. They're gone. They're consumed. The survivors are sent back to Korea. Second brigade, third brigade, they're isolation. They're incommunicado. Nothing they can do. But then if you're in 4th and 5th brigade and 6th brigade, and you're in the hopper, you're getting ready to go, and then 6 guys, with no legs come back from 1st brigade, and they go, holy shit. And then you say, well, we'll get better. And then 6 guys with no legs come back from 2nd brigade.
Well,
oh, that's bad too. And then the same thing from 3rd brigade. Okay, this is not a pattern. This is the way it is. So then we're in 4th, 5th, and 6th brigade, and then we get our notice to move. Okay, boys, you're next in the hop. You're going to Russia. Like fuck we are.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing is like, if Kim's prepared to throw away like almost 500,000 troops, and Kim is famously the Kim family, but they're famously fans of Stalin,
Yeah.
right? Like, those troops never come back.
Yeah.
If they do, they go into a gulag system.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
could be it too. Yeah.
Those 6
Yeah.
aren't coming home.
Yeah. Well, like there won't be enough.
Yeah,
to
but
come
if it's
home.
only like, you send a brigade and 100 live, well, that's
Yeah.
100. That's 100 rounds of 9mm.
Yeah, I guess. But like that's the point. 4th, 5th, and 6th brigades. Where's everyone coming back?
Yeah.
Where do these guys go? Like it's a one-way ticket.
Yeah.
And like if
Either way. Yeah.
like say the first 250, the first 300,000 go on a one-way ticket. If you are in the second tranche of 300,000,
Yeah.
you're thinking, no, I'm not. No. I could see that second tranche.
Maybe you bring a
Saying-
couple guys back who are hale and hearty, right? And they put on weight because they're in Russia because the Russians actually
Yeah,
have some
yeah,
food
yeah,
to feed
exactly.
them and
But
stuff
then-
like that. They
or
come
just
back, it's good, and then
People,
nobody else.
letters stop being answered.
Yeah.
There's no communication with parents and siblings and spouses anymore. Like they just gone. They just disappear. That could be a trigger where your professional military class, guys at command at the brigade and battalion level,
Yeah, the field grade guys. Yeah.
Yeah, they start thinking about a coup.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's the subject for episode 50. When did you say? Easter?
It might.
I'm hoping before.
Yeah, we might be seeing that.
But what are we doing to celebrate? Well, I guess it's a conversation off mic. What are we doing to celebrate episode 49?
We'll
That's
worry
a
about
couple
that.
episodes down the
Episode
road.
47. We'll worry about that. What is this? 43?
43, yeah.
40. Yeah, we'll worry about that. 47.
We should get episode 49 by Ortona Day.
We should. We could even ask all 5 of our, or I think it's 2, but whatever. Send out an email to all 5 of our listeners. It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
We could read the responses pretty fast in about 5 minutes.
Anyways, I need to get going, guys.
All right, guys.
Alrighty.
Thank you. Stay tuned next time when I think we should discuss how all of our listeners in the Edmonton area would die screaming on South American roads with the way they drive here.
Well, simple. We don't have any Edmonton area listeners. No one lives here. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.